Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the final day of Summit. I hope you're all enjoying yourself. I'm Amy, and I'm the MC for the Scale track here at Summit. Today, I'm really excited to announce Prafula and Koom up to the stage from VMware. They're going to be talking about being there, scaled that, making the right bets in people, processes, and tools at VMware. Prafula is obsessed with chocolate ice cream, so if you have any recommendations, please let her know after the talk. And Koom this is his first time in Barcelona, Spain, and he's trying to learn Spanish. So if you're going to ask any questions at the end, please ask them in Spanish because he really wants to answer them back in Spanish. But without further ado, let's welcome them to the stage.
Thank you. Good morning. We are honored to be here in Barcelona giving this talk. As Amy mentioned, this is our first time in the European Summit, and it's really amazing to be here with the whole Atlassian community from around the whole world. And we are extremely lucky to be sharing this talk not only with our VMware team members, but all of you today. My name is Koom Tam. I drive the strategy and roadmap for all of R&D engineers tool services in VMware.
Hi, everyone. My name is Prafula Arvind. I'm the engineering manager at VMware, who's responsible for delivering mission-critical services for over 20,000 people.
When Atlassian tools power innovation that affects over 500 million people, keeping the lights on isn't enough. At VMware, the adoption of Atlassian tools grew more than tenfold in a year. Our Jira and Confluence application went from running under the desk to becoming mission-critical systems for our over 20,000 users. We are here today to share with you how we supercharge Atlassian data center with the power of VMware technologies to create new avenues for innovation. At VMware, we believe that software has the power to unlock new opportunities for people and planet. We continuously innovate, empowering our customers in their digital transformation, creating new technologies that work together seamlessly. Some of you may be wondering, what is driving our team to embark on this journey? In order for me to answer the question, let me share a little bit of a history of VMware from inception to now. In 1998, 5 people in Palo Alto, California, USA, got together to create a better way to compute and form VMware Incorporated. 4 years later, VMware launches the ESX server. Many of you know, this is the first hypervisor. This groundbreaking product fundamentally changed the way people think about computing. Fast forward to 2007, just under 10 years, VMware goes public on the New York Stock Exchange and hit the $1 billion revenue mark. During that year, also launched Distributed Resource Scheduler. Some of you may be aware of that, DRS, which is the key to high availability and business continuity. In 2012, VMware acquired Nicira, and 1 year later, launches NSX and vSAN. That brings a completely new model of networking in software-defined data center, which today is widely known as SDDC. Right? In fact, Terry McDonough, president and CEO of Aerodata at that time, was quoted as saying, VMware NSX is a completely revolutionary development in the data center security in more than a decade. Over the past 20 years, VMware has been known as the leading innovator of enterprise software. But at the same time, VMware recognized the importance of and the coexistence of the enterprise cloud and the public cloud. So VMware itself is undergoing a transformation to move from not only just the enterprise, but the hybrid cloud business. In this aspect, VMware continue to make key investments, acquiring AirWatch and partnering with Amazon to launch our VMware Cloud Service, allowing IT teams to manage their cloud resources with very familiar VMware tools. This partnership really signals the dawn of a new era because our customers can now manage their multiple clouds without any restrictions. VMware has been, as I say, a leading innovator in enterprise software. It's a compute, cloud, networking, security product, provides a very dynamic and strong digital foundation for our over 500,000 customers. VMware has fundamentally changed IT, and with it, the work that they do. Today, VMware is proud to be a $7 billion company with over 20,000 employees, and for the fourth consecutive time in a year, named 2018 Fortune 100 company. Around the time that Jira Confluence came into our radar, as you can see, VMware is undergoing a very significant transformation. Our company has changed, and for us, we have to refocus our goals to ensure that we also align with it and deliver customer and business value. This shift was actually one of the key factors that spurred the rapid growth of Atlassian tools over the last 3 to 4 years. Now, Prafulla is going to talk about the growth, the challenges, the opportunities, and how we tackle them in various areas.
So, VMware culture puts a huge emphasis on autonomy, flexibility, and innovation so that the teams can get things done. So these teams who are undergoing cloud transformation were looking for new solutions to support their agile mindset. Many use the standard IT tooling, while others turned towards Jira and Confluence. The rapid organic growth brought about 1,000 new users within a span of single month into Jira and Confluence instance. This user milestone was really the tipping point. Users started experiencing pain points with administrative overhead, and with every new team that onboarded, risk increased because of the frequent stability issues and outages. The value that the users were initially getting from these tools were jeopardized. Stability became a biggest concern. The temperature started to rise, and many of these issues got escalated. That is when we made a decision to migrate the Jira and Confluence to more stable IT infrastructure running on VMware solution. VMware has vMotion, which automatically detects a defective node and spins up a new VM automatically. At this time, our team managed other issue tracking and project management applications used across the enterprise. I owned the issue tracker for the last 3 years. I worked on supporting, integrating, and enhancing it. Our efforts got it to a point we enjoyed the stability. At the same time, I was constantly researching the latest technologies and speaking with other Silicon Valley tech companies to learn what was their tool of choice at the point in time. My research surfaced that Jira and Confluence as the leading solution for agile software teams. After a short period of time, I found myself in a curious position where I was proposing Jira and Confluence to be the tool of choice for VMware R&D. I knew that we had to make the right bets. We went all in on the solutions that helped us improve developer productivity. This is what the basic architecture looked like in 2015 with a single application node and a single database node. We had basic monitoring with very minimal support, a very small size team to back it up, and minimal subject matter expertise. Soon after bringing Jira and Confluence under our umbrella, we realized the unique challenges that was in front of us. Our R&D teams needed flexible tooling that supported their goals to innovate rapidly and deliver more customer value. And our job was to provide solutions for our user needs and ensure that we have stability and at the same time deliver high performance. To paint a picture, one of the internal cloud business unit approached us who were using a completely different tool to set everything from scratch, a whole new set of projects, new workflows, and also many different types of plugins. It was a huge challenge for us where we have never onboarded a team of that size and complexity. Well, outside of that onboarding, the business has its own challenges and pressures and requirements that was depending on our offerings. One of the examples that I would like to give here is our execs decided that Confluence was the best place to store the presentation slide when he was going to talk in Europe. And when he went to access the slide, the Confluence was down. And it was really not a good situation to be in. So that's when we realized how users were using these tools and also the criticality of these tools. How do we manage the central management of the tools with VMware culture? How do we allow the teams to continue to innovate while supporting a tool that needs to be standardized and gowned for enterprise scale? We faced a huge challenge, but with this challenge, we realized we had a significant opportunity in front of us, so we leaned in. We began to grasp the criticality of applications in both who was using these tools and how it was being used. We were left with 3 big questions that Kum is going to talk about.
So we have to step back and take a look at the bigger picture, right? And as Prafula mentioned, when we do that, we felt there were 3 big questions we have to ask ourselves and try to address. The first being, how do we make Jira and Confluence highly available and offer business continuity? The second is our users. How do we provide the best experience for end users? And this is including stability, performance, adoption, everything around using the system. And finally, what is our strategy for Atlassian at VMware? Looking at the 3 to 4 years ahead. In terms of high availability, VMware was one of the first companies to offer enterprise solutions around high availability, data protection, and disaster recovery. HA and DR is really in our blood. So naturally, we have to find a solution very quickly. At that time, our TAM is Dan Redigan. I'm sure many of you know Dan. Yeah, he's really great at Atlassian. He presented the data center solution to us as a high availability solution. And at that time, Confluence was actually one of our systems that has to suffer the most stability problem. So we decided that's the best way to approach it, then we should go ahead and adopt data center for Confluence. We work closely with the TAM and Premier support. They really gave us a lot of guidance and support, and it was really, while it was challenging, it was a great team effort to allow us to bring the solution up to provide the data center solution for high availability. And actually, then we started to realize, once we put that in place, that the architecture is probably going to evolve and grow as more people come to use the system. Now that we have achieved high availability, we've thought that, well, that may have solved the problem, right? Installing, getting high availability on using data center is pretty straightforward. We have to install it, we have to fine-tune it and administer it and so forth. But obviously, as you know, that doesn't solve everything. We have other problems, and we have to recognize what are the other challenges that we have to deal with, especially when we talk about user experience and how do we ensure things like performance. How do we monitor and make sure that the performance is running well? How do we support and scale the infrastructure as more users come aboard? And then how do we put together a cadence in terms of maintenance and upgrades? And obviously, all this is for our users. So how do we onboard large group of users with multiple different requirements, as you probably are facing? And finally, many of you are familiar with plugins. They are great in the marketplace. But how do we manage them? How do we ensure that we have a process so that we, again, allow them the flexibility, our users, but also provide the type of best user experience? It became clear that while we're looking at these, we needed a roadmap, right? What is our strategy then? That was the third question. What is our strategy for Atlassian at the enterprise level where we scale, right? Well, we didn't have one at that time. So again, we were so focused on just building up the system, putting the people in place. We were kind of knee-deep in what we had to do. So again, we went to ask our Atlassian folks to help us understand how do you think that our growth is going to look like? Can you give us a view from your side on the usage and stuff? So Kelly Algram, who is one of our sales support from Atlassian, grabbed a list of all the users, some of which we are not even aware of, using Atlassian products. And this is what she come back with. How many of you are familiar with this list? When I look at the list of all the users, whether it's in the cloud, deploying it in their desk, plugins, all kinds of stuff, the list was really shocking and actually scary when I saw it the first time with the amount of users that we have across the whole company. In order to scale at the type of usage that we are seeing, and in order to anticipate, we know we needed an enterprise relationship with Atlassian to help us move into that direction. We have had great experience and partnership with the Atlassian TAM. We have worked very well with the Premier Support. And then looking at the way we scale in the next 3 to 4 years, it's natural for us to expand and leverage on our partnership with Atlassian and Premier Support. And as I mentioned, Kelly was really helpful in helping us get all the information and the usage. So it was pretty obvious for us that we enter an ELA relationship with Atlassian. And now Prafula is going to dive a little bit deeper into those areas that we talk about, the HA, the user experience, and so forth.
So at this point in time, we had addressed some of the stability issues. We had enterprise agreement in place. And we also had good technical account managers to guide us in the right direction. And we defined some access to the applications. So we steered our focus towards high availability and disaster recovery. And under user experience, particularly under governance and scale. It is in our VMware's DNA to ensure that any application we develop has high availability and disaster recovery. This is not just specific to one tool. We actually do this across the board. The key things that we did as part of HADR initiative is we decided to move Jira Service Desk and our Jira software into data center. We also moved a huge Confluence instance to data center. We also designed a disaster recovery system for all of these 3 applications. We practiced the DR failover and failback mechanisms, keeping the time that it actually takes to do the failover and failback, and also the amount of data that could be lost during this process. So all of this to minimize the data loss in case of an actual disaster. We also adapted the initiative VMware on VMware. This is the idea that our in-house services should all run on the best-in-breed VMware technology. This is much bigger than dogfooding. It takes it to one level up. How many of you here in the audience are familiar with dogfooding? How many of you do this today? Well, not many. So for us, we can't go to market with products unless we make it work at VMware. With all the efforts happening around Jira and Confluence, we needed to leverage VMware solution in production. There was no excuses. So we also explored the option of having a system in hybrid environment so we could test it before our customers. So we decided to come up with an architecture where we had Jira active site on-prem, and we put the DR site on VMC on AWS. It's VMware Managed Cloud. This was a huge challenge for us. No one had ever done this type of configuration. We put clustering in place for databases. As you see, we have more than one database here. We use continuous tungsten technology to handle the clustering part. It's quite smart in how it detects the failure of the databases, and it automatically failovers to a good and healthy node. The replication that happened between the active site and the DR site is also real time. So in this scenario, in case of a disaster, we actually have zero data loss. We do have some time delay when it comes to syncing up the profiles, data, and attachments. With this setup, we also had to test the third-party integrations. In case of a disaster, we wanted to make sure that they work seamlessly as it did in our active environment. After we have HA and DR in place, we started to focus towards stability. As more and more users started onboarding to Atlassian tools, stability became a biggest concern. So how many of you here have gone through a reorg? As you can tell, it's very, very painful. It's hard for the teams, but for us, it turned out to be very beneficial. We transitioned from a core services team to a cloud productivity engineering team to align our focus on creating solutions to empower our end users. Our company is changing. It's becoming more of a cloud-oriented company. Everyone is forced to level up, including ourselves. This change brought new talent and skill sets into our team, which helped us. As part of this, we adapted Jira and Jira Service Desk and Jira software to solve our own problems. Managing, supporting, and running operations team is really hard. We weren't exempt. Dealing with fires and managing our user requests was not easy. Users would ask for literally anything. Just because you can, you shouldn't actually go ahead and do that. You need to establish governance to proactively stop bringing unwanted and unnecessary requests. What we did was we educated the users, we put proper templates in place where users go to request for these new features. The way you know you're actually doing a good job in an ops team is that no one will know that you exist. It's kind of sad, but at the same time, you know that you're doing a great job. The challenge with providing the best user experience is that we had no time. Between random outages to planning upgrades and to onboarding users, we barely were able to keep our heads above water. To address this, we asked ourselves, what was the most time-consuming thing that we did as a team? We were in constant firefighting mode. We had a ton of outages, we had major performance issues, and we had very needy users. On the maintenance side, we had to keep up with the product upgrades. We had plugin upgrades to take care of. Also security and OS patching, which was very important. At the same time, we are trying to maintain lower environments like dev and stage. So what we did to address this, we adapted the train-the-trainer model for our team so that we can remove single point of failure, and teams are knowledgeable enough to address these issues. We worked very closely with premier support and technical account managers. We did multiple fine-tuning exercises to scale infrastructure and application. We did thorough root cause analysis for incidents and also documented the findings. We determine what could be our short-term solutions and also what could be our long-term solutions. And we never forgot to follow up on that. SLAs, we established SLAs for applications, uptime, and also response times. On the maintenance side, we did plugin optimization. We uninstalled unused or outdated plugins. We standardized the plugins and upgraded all of the plugins. We also implemented load testing so that we test these plugins before it goes into production. We also introduced cadences for product and plugin upgrades. We established monthly plugin upgrades and biannual upgrades for products. We decided to reduce the complexity by introducing automation. We re-architected and re-simplified so that we can automate majority of the processes, so that we were not in a panic mode when there was a time to upgrade your system. We also adapted zero downtime. That really is something that helped us to bring down the SLAs. This diagram not only depicts the different phases that we went through, but also exactly how we felt during that process. We were in a stable, happy state, and then immediately after, we were in a very stressful state, and it became chaotic. And we improvised, we introduced revolutionary changes, the things that I mentioned, and it was a new renewal phase for us. And again, this is where we are now, enjoying the new stability phase. Now that we had most of the critical things taken care of, we moved on to address governance and enterprise scale. What does scale actually mean? It's really different for different organizations and different teams. In our case, we identified 4 pillars that we used to answer any questions at scale. It was defining scale and security, access and control, and user experience. Keep in mind, whatever you do, trying to solve the problem of scale is very painful. So, defining scale. So, what does it really mean for your organization or our organization? You have to make sure that you know what your growth trajectory is and looking out into the future to see where we are headed. On the security side, how do you handle the external integrations and also segregation of data? You want to make sure if you have any important critical financial data in your system, it's not visible to other users. Access and control. Who do you give access to? At the same time, you limit the access to make sure that people don't have too much visibility. At the same time, you want to promote open collaboration and innovation. You should identify people in different business units you work with so that you have a good collaboration and understanding while making business decisions. When it comes to user experience, we had to make a decision between federation versus consolidation. We decided to offer a single source of truth to our users to collaborate, so consolidation of tools was our choice. We wanted to make sure users know where to go when they needed to find information so that they can get it easily. Hence, we decided to go with a single Jira software, single service desk, and single Confluence. It was a huge decision for us, but that was the right decision for us. Also, for on-prem and cloud, which do you adapt? In our case, even though we made this decision of having a standard Jira, Service Desk, and Confluence, we also had to address other teams' needs. In this case, we had a hands-on labs team whose needs were purely customer-facing for offering training. The requirements were changing and the use case was completely different. In this scenario, we actually had to opt for a cloud instance so that they can manage it independently while catering to the needs of the users. Coming to performance at scale, how do we measure what good performance is? Aspects like SLAs, team target goals, and objectives come into play. You also have to look at your underlying infrastructure. What sort of improvements can you make so that you can sustain the user growth? Well, what do we do now with all the free time we have? Initially, we thought it's just enough to implement HA and DR in order to provide a mission-critical service. Once we matured, we got out of the firefighting and the maintenance mode. We assessed where we were and knew we could improve our service offering to others. So we focused on team process and tools. We made sure that we had proper staffing in place so that the people can get things done. We built a new team in Bangalore. We also established partnership with our IT team to make sure that, or to help us with L1 support. We trained the support engineers, and we got some more help from cross-functional teams. We did many of the real-time simulation exercises so that teams know how to address things in case when there's an issue. We went to get 24/7 coverage. So we established support engineers such that they're all working all times so that we can cater to our business needs. At this point in time on the process side, planned downtime used to be okay, but not anymore. So we had to pay more focus on the SLAs and the uptime percentage. So we decided to re-review our runbooks and make sure that every single detail is documented there. Also, we did continuous improvement and retrospective with the teams. Root cause analysis, we do it after every single outage, however small or big. We also have a solid knowledge base in place. On the technology side, we build tighter integration between the tools, not just within the Atlassian tools, but outside with all the tools that we are offering. Also on the architecture side, we explored, did POCs, and figured out what solutions works best for us, federation versus consolidation of tools. Monitoring. We put monitoring in place to a point where we are notified ahead of time before these issues are known to the customers. Handing it over to Kum.
So as you can see, there are a lot of things that we need to cover: people, process, maintenance, plugins, performance, and everything. And we try to put a lot of these things in place. So naturally, after we've done all these things, your question is, well, then what's next? What's on the roadmap, right? So even though we have put all this place and we know what are the things that are critical to us, especially our users, we really need to establish the KPIs, measure them, and continuously improve on those KPIs. So obviously, the one thing is uptime. We put in place the measurement. We want to continue to improve on the uptime. We also, as I say, user experience is very important to us. So we establish metrics and continue to improve on mean time to acknowledge, as well as mean time to resolve, MTTA and MTTR. These are the things that matters most to our users whenever they make a request or has a problems. Again, the other thing is disaster recovery. As Prafula mentioned, we continually practice on a regular basis. So we establish recovery point objective and recovery time objective, and we want to improve on those things to ensure that we do not have any disruption in our service offering. The other thing that is important to us is, even though we put together 24/7 monitoring, the key is we want to be proactive as opposed to reactive. With the monitoring and all the data that we put in place, we're now starting to look at self-healing initiative where we can actually want to detect and address the problem before our users actually sees them. This is very challenging. It involves perhaps going into some machine learning stuff, using analytics with all the monitoring data that we get to try and understand and learn the characteristics of the system. We want to continue to strengthen our partnership with our users. It's important because user is the key, right? After all the things that we're doing is for the user. So it's not just you and I, but we want to have a partnership so that we understand their requirements and they know what we're doing. And at the same time, when we do that, it's not just like onboarding and having, proof of concepts. We want to establish the partnership to the point where we have a steering committee where they are the one that comes together to discuss problems, roadmaps, and get their expert guidance on what's next, so that they can feel this is a part of their whole they are part of the whole ecosystem. And finally, we know that the architecture is not static. It will continue to change as we scale, and that's something that we also want to look at. So these are some of the things that we think we should be, looking into the next 3 to 4 years. What should we be improving on? And then the next question, obviously, you'll be asking is, well, then, what are some of the key takeaways that you can go back to your organizations, right? We want to continue to up our uptime, objective. We occasionally do hit 4 nines, but maybe that's by chance, but we don't want to leave it to chance, right? So as I said, we want to up our level on the 4 nines. And then we have 20,000 users, right? But the number of users is going to continue to grow. So we need to make sure that these users can do their job and use the tools for their collaborative efforts. And these users actually in VMware, on an average, do 400 releases a year, which form part of the 140 products that we offer to our company. So these are some of the things that, as part of the roadmap, we really want to make sure that we stay focused with the user base, user being our first priority and all of that. Again, as I mentioned, then you can ask, well, what are some of the key takeaways from this whole experience? Again, being redundant, we always put our user in place as, in front of us all the time. And, to do that, we know we have to conduct very thorough discovery and do proof of concept with our users. That's one of the key takeaways. Because we want to understand their requirements. We want to guide them in making sure that they know how to use the system correctly in terms of the workflow, in terms of custom fields, as you all know, is a challenge, in terms of plugins that they should or should not be using. Maybe they are not aware of other solutions. So make sure that you do have a good, strong relationship with your users. Especially build a rapport and build up the trust with the users, champion, leaders, and sponsors, because they are the ones that make the decisions for their group. So it's always good to keep them up to date on what's happening, what are our challenges, make sure that they know we're there for them, they can trust us, but also recognize that we do have challenges and problems to address their requirements. The other thing that I have mentioned a lot is Atlassian relationship. We have a journey. We will continue to evolve. Atlassian has a great TAM program. The premier support is great. So we want to continue to build up the relationship. I encourage you to do that. And I think it's important to be open and transparent and share with them what we are doing, what we're doing in the future. What is our organization doing? What are we changing? What is VMware priority? Because the more they know about these things that we have to embark on, the better they can anticipate and look ahead for us while handling some of the daily tactical problems. Finally, performance, again, is the key, right? It's part of one of the key users. So it's important for you to recognize the performance. Particularly, we all know the Atlassian Marketplace is a great resource for our user. They always go there and say, hey, I want to use these, I want to use that plugin. but I think we should have a very good, you should have a very good process and education for your users to ensure that they know what is available, what are the pitfalls and so forth, and put a process in place that will allow you to manage the plugins that is vastly available out there. What do you think are some of the things that we should share with in terms of key takeaways?
So knowing your customers and partners is the key. You have to understand your customer's roadmap before you plan to build your own. So be proactive. Prepare for the worst case. No incident is small. Treat like everything is important. Build your knowledge base and also have root cause analysis done. And do continuous training and simulation exercises for the team. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending this talk.
Thank you very much.
We also have a talk later this afternoon by Jonathan Franconi from VMware. It's all about service desk and automation. It's pretty good. Do take time to attend. Thank you.
I'd like to just thank Prafula and Kum for their time. Thank you very much for coming and presenting. We don't have time for questions in this session, but I'm sure they're going to be around for the afternoon, so catch them if you can.